complicated. 2 steps forward and 3 steps back.
Hey there all, and welcome to the Career Jigsaw Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Volpicello, and thank you so much for tuning in. So you did tune in. Why should you continue to listen? What makes us a little different? Well, there are 3 things that I think separate us. First, we have a ton of experience. Me and my team literally have hundreds of years of experience hiring thousands of people. Second, our goal is to give you great advice where we can, but in a way that is helpful and concise. And third, well, honestly, we don't take ourselves too seriously, so expect a few laughs along the way. So sit back, relax, or continue to walk or work out if that's your thing, and enjoy as we discuss all things career. Hello all, and welcome to the very first episode of the Career Jigsaw Podcast, the podcast where we help you put the career puzzle pieces together. As I mentioned in the opening, my name is Tony Volpicello, and I'm your host. Just a little bit about me. I worked in financial services for 35 years, started from very humble beginnings, was fortunate enough to work with and for some amazing leaders, and have hired and developed a ton of people along the way. I'll be the first to admit I was incredibly lucky, and now I have a debt of gratitude I wish to pay off. The greatest joy I had professionally was when I was able to look around a room full of coworkers and see so many people I had a hand in helping. I can't tell you how gratifying that is. So I'm trying to take that passion now to this podcast. So what makes us a little different? When I look at other podcasts out there, they have a podcast because they have something to say. They want their voice to be heard. And that goes for Instagram and TikTok, which all have very good content. I would argue maybe there's too much content out there and perhaps not enough with real-world, long-time experience. So our approach is going to be a little bit different. It's a bit more of a pay it forward. We don't necessarily have something to say, but we do have something to share. Second, we've taken the time to get real-world feedback. We've picked the brains of recruiters, the first line of defense, and surveyed dozens of hiring managers, people I worked with. It'll be so interesting to be able to hear from both of those groups. So ultimately, who is this podcast for? Well, it's for first-time job applicants, existing employees looking to further their career, and also hiring managers. Our goal is to give you value-added content with every episode. So where will our focus be? Well, in preparation for this podcast, we took a look at things that can cause career stress. And what we learned wasn't surprising, but it will help us focus. Stress areas included work-home-life balance, career advancement, stress and burnout, communication and conflict resolution, and job satisfaction and fulfillment. So these are the areas we will strive to help. So what can you expect from us? Well, 3 things. First, real-world experience and recommendations, and we will try to keep it real. So you'll hear me say a lot, this is what it sounds like, or this is what it should look like. The goal here is to take something conceptual, break it down, and give you examples that are specific and actionable. Second, topics that matter. We've researched what keeps applicants, employees, and managers up at night, and we'll bring those topics here for discussion. A few of those topics that we will discuss in upcoming episodes include how to manage your manager, and yes, there are ways to do this. How to make AI work for you in your career. Sunday night stress and how to relieve it. How to replace interview nerves with strong confidence. How to make a mentorship work for mentors and mentees, and so much more. And third, well, we won't be perfect. Perfect is the enemy of the good. And listen, you won't hear me say too many stuffy quotes, but that's a good one. So thank you, French philosopher Voltaire, for that. We'll try to keep it real, we'll try to keep it relevant, and we'll try to keep it concise. Every episode will be 20 minutes or under. Every episode will be recapped with no more than 3 solid takeaways. Every episode will have a 1-page recap on our website, and we'll build future episodes around your feedback. So let's kick off today's episode with a quote of the day to get our heads in the right space. If it excites you and scares you at the same time, it probably means you should do it. All right, enough background and setting the stage. It's time to dive in. So I've got a pop quiz for you. How does a recruiter meet you without meeting you? The answer is the word of the day, resume. which comes from the French for summary. I didn't know that till researching for this episode, and I've gone to a French reference twice now. But again, the word of the day is resume. You know, when you think about it, the resume is just a piece of paper, but this damn thing has a ton of power. It's how a company, quote unquote, meets you for the very first time. And what do you do when you go for a job? You apply and you upload the resume. That brings me to my second quote of the day. I love writing my resume, said nobody ever. Yes, resumes are not the sexiest topic in the world, and one that sometimes gets too little focus, but other times is weighed way too heavily. So we'll try to strike the right balance here. And while we're talking about resumes, let's talk a bit about cover letters. And I have to tell you, I learned a ton from surveying hiring managers around cover letters. Crazy fact of the week. Most hiring managers and recruiters barely, if at all, read your cover letter. So knowing this, it's time to make a choice about cover letters. Your first choice, make it worth reading. Well, if you're going to do it, make it worth your while. So really think about both the content and the layout. And there's plenty of Instagrams out there with really great advice on how to make your cover letter pop. So if you want to make your cover letter stand out, go take a look. But if you decide your cover letter is not worth it, then that leads me to your second option. Cut your losses and move on. Put your energy into your resume. So both of these choices have their place. You need to strike a balance of where you want to put your time and energy. Now it's time for this week's rhetorical question. When was the last time you updated your resume? I bet the number one answer here is, I don't remember. Well, what are you waiting for? Are you looking to add stress to the next time you apply for a job by having to scramble to update it then? Also, you never know when someone will ask you for your resume at a moment's notice. You could be at a meeting, a cocktail party, or a networking event, and someone may ask for your resume simply to get to know you better. So what do our experts have to say about cover letters and resumes? So there are a few key themes here that I wanted to share. So first, on cover letters. As I mentioned before, most haven't seen one in a while, or they don't read it. So that being said, perhaps there's an opportunity to stand out here. Something different from the very boring introductory cover letter. Something that really adds to covering the resume. It's got to be something personalized and something customized. But again, if there's a low expectation around cover letters, maybe there's an opportunity here to do something different. So what do our experts say about resumes? What surprised me most is most leaders say they take only about 5 to 10 minutes to review a resume prior to an interview. And a significant portion also said they take less than 5 minutes to prepare for an interview by reading the resume. So for you, if you're a candidate out there, an applicant, that's not a lot of time to grab interest. Your resume has to really work for you. And then the third thing we heard regarding both cover letters and resumes was there was a lack of standing out or visual appeal. So again, they all look the same. So think about your cover letters, your resumes. How do you get them to stand out? How do you make them separate you from everybody else and look a bit different? So let's stay on resumes here for a bit more. We also asked our team what resume pet peeves did they have. So here's some of what they told us, few key themes. First, mistakes matter. Typos are the absolute worst. Showing a complete lack of attention to detail was a big pet peeve, and they also believe this attention to detail, or lack thereof, would carry over into the actual job. By far, this was the number one pet peeve. Second pet peeve, resumes were too long. You need to strive for a one-pager. No one reads page 2 and beyond. Don't distract the interviewer with volume. When I looked up the definition of resume, I was surprised to see how many times the word short appeared. 1 to 2 pages, otherwise the story ain't worth telling. I'm being a little dramatic here, but I think you get the point. Third theme for resumes, there were a lack of accomplishments or exaggerated accomplishments. So there was a huge key takeaway here. Include accomplishments in your resume. By all means, it's a must. It's a separator. But you have to keep them concise and believable. And we will go deeper here in a minute. So you've heard from me for a bit. I'm excited to bring another voice to today's podcast. And my special guest is Jim Dubois. Jim and I worked together for 25 plus years, and combined, Jim's got over 40 years of real-world experience. So first and foremost, Jim, thanks for joining today's podcast.
Well, thank you for the invite, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to be one of your first guests.
Thanks, Jim. So let's dive right in. Today's focus has been all about resumes. We've talked a lot already about what to do, what not to do, pitfalls, and more to come. But I want to hear from you. When it comes to resumes, what do you look for?
Well, there's three things that come to mind that I look for in a resume. And the first one is that professional look. Nice, clean, concise resume. The second thing is it's linked to the role that you might be applying for, the position. I think that's very, very important. And then the third one is, and a lot of people don't put this down, but they don't list their accomplishments in their prior positions. That's important because you want to see someone that's successful. You want to hire a successful person. So those are the three things that I look for.
So let's talk about kind of a negative separation, which is what could lose you the job. So I'm kind of curious, what pet peeves do you have around resumes?
Well, I think the first one, and I think this might be everyone's pet peeve, but typos in a resume, poor grammar is something that you really, really should have someone look your resume over before you submit it. The second one is if it's more than 1 or 2 pages long, that really can get in the way. So keep it to 1 page because it's important when you think about it. When people are reviewing resumes, myself included, is you really don't have time to go looking through a resume that's 3 pages long when you're looking at possibly 100 potential candidates. And then the third one would be it not being concise, which addresses that being too many pages.
Yeah, I love that point you made around being able to narrow down the candidate pool from 100 to 10 you're going to interview. And I don't think our listeners always understand the power of the resume. This is a piece of paper that is being evaluated before you ever meet the recruiter or the hiring manager like yourself.
Exactly.
All right, so we talked a little bit about how to make a resume stand out and make it maybe memorable. Your resume could also work against you. So I'm kind of curious if you have any memorable or what I might call a bad experience around a resume. Any examples or any stories you want to share?
Yeah, I'll share one. I might have even showed you this particular resume. I don't recall, but it was a resume that people use their email addresses on their applications as a form of how to get in touch with. And the person that had the email address something like Hot Mama Mary at AOL.com or something like that. I don't recall. But it was like, wow, that's not a good way to really project yourself. So I would stay away from that. I would just use your first name, your last name, and at gmail.com or whatever service you use.
Great point.
That was a pretty good one.
Yeah. It's a great specific example of how you can kind of step on a landmine when it comes to your resume. Yeah. Hey, so Jim, I'm going to wrap up here. First and foremost, thank you so much for making the time today. Really appreciate you being on the very first podcast. And I guarantee you we're going to ask you back for future episodes.
Well, I look forward to it. And congratulations, Tony. This is a great idea, and I think it'd be very helpful for those future folks applying for positions of employment. So great job.
Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it. So, team, you can see that resumes matter. They may not get you the job, but surely could lose you the job. So what is the real goal of the resume? Well, there are two that go hand in hand. Achieve separation and land me an interview. I need you to really understand this. It's important. Because here's what your resume isn't: a job application. Again, the mission of your resume: achieve separation and land me an interview. So let's talk about separation. Well, does your resume stand out from others? And here's how I want you to think about it to make it real. Think about a recruiter with 100 applicants for a job. How will they quickly narrow that down? Well, the first way they'll do that is side-by-side comparisons. They'll line these resumes up and try to figure out which ones are the ones that should go from an applicant pool to a candidate pool. And we'll tell you how to do this separation in a few minutes. But how do you know if separation worked? Well, it leads to goal number 2. It's why they go hand in hand. The resume landed me an interview. The real goal of the resume is to get you in front of the recruiter and then eventually the hiring manager. Again, it's not a job application. Your resume is the blind date with the goal of getting you a second date. Again, achieve separation and land me an interview. So now let me share with you a resume standout story that I had. A few years ago, I had an interview scheduled for later on in the week, and Tuesday morning, a couple days before the interview, I received a FedEx package to my office, and it was from the candidate I was interviewing later on in the week. So I opened up the package, and it included a 30, 60, day, 90 action plan, which is nothing more than what would I do if I got the job in the first 30 days, the first 60 days, and the first 90 days, and also included a cover letter and a resume. The cover letter was very specific to the company, to the role, and it was addressed to me personally. And then the resume had the candidate's photo and color logos from the school they attended and their previous employers. I have to tell you, this package was impressive. I could not wait to meet this candidate. So I just wanted to share with you quickly the real-life impact this process could have on a hiring manager. So let's go a little bit deeper into resumes. There are 3 key areas of a resume that must get your attention. You must focus on them: look and feel, content, and customization. So first, look and feel. Simply put, does your resume stand out? Does it pop? Does it look professional? Does it separate you? You have to really think about your resume like you're entering it into a beauty contest, and will it win that contest? I know it's a weird comparison, but it is absolutely true. If you want ideas on what this could look like and get your creative juices flowing, simply go to your browser, go to Google, and just type in resume images. And you'll see a variety of layouts. Now, and we're all visual creatures, so really think about how can you get your resume visually to stand out, make your resume an eye catcher. There's also plenty of sites out there like kickresume.com that can also help get you started. So first, look and feel. Second, content. Specifically, does your resume include accomplishments? And I want you to think about your performance accomplishments, your people or team accomplishments, or even community accomplishments. They all demonstrate something about you. So what does that sound like? So for the performance section, you could put something like, I've achieved 100% plus of XYZ performance goal for 8 consecutive quarters. That's very specific to you and how you've performed. Or you could say something like, I received the Diamond Award for 2023. Again, a separator. Second, under accomplishments, if you think about the teams you've played on. If I was a Kansas City Chief, I certainly would be taking credit for winning the last 2 Super Bowls as part of that team. So if you have any team accomplishments, put them on your resume. And then third, if you're a great community advocate and you support your community, putting something on your resume like I volunteered 500 hours at a local soup kitchen in 2023 is huge, definitely included. It speaks to the type of person that you are. So we talked about look and feel, talked about content. Third is customization. This is where things start to feel specific and personal, and that you took the time to apply your application, your resume, your cover letter to the job. So is your cover letter resume tailored to the company and the role? And one way to do that is to match your skills and strengths to the company and the role. So you can go to Chat GPT and you can ask it, what are the top 5 skills needed for XYZ job at ABC company? And when you get the output, you can build that answer into your cover letter and your resume. So you can match the skills you have to the skills the job requires. Hope that's helpful. So it's clear that artificial intelligence can play a huge role in helping you create your resume or in giving you a resume score. Have you ever heard someone say, I applied to dozens of jobs and never even got a call back? Well, some companies run your resume through a filter called ATS, Application Tracking System. And this system might score you and bounce you out of the process before you ever get to a recruiter. All right, also, it's time to wrap up our first episode. Thank you so much for joining, but hopefully we've given you a lot to think about.
3, 2, 1.
So let me boil down everything we talked about today into 3 immediate action steps. Number 1, update your resume now and every 3 months. Number 2, commit to improving the 3 key areas of your resume: look and feel, content with achievements, and customization. And number 3, understand and utilize AI to help you achieve your resume goals. AI can help you create, customize, and even score your resume, so do your homework here. And to wrap, guys, lastly, I want to make sure every week we give you a suggestion or 2 on investing in yourself. So here are our first 2 suggestions. Number one, if you want a free critique of your resume, you can send it to us via the resume review button at our website, www.thecareerjigsaw.com, and we will tell you 2 or 3 things we liked about your resume and 2 or 3 things that we thought needed improvement. Absolutely free. And secondly, and this one is terrific, if you want a compilation of everything Harvard has to offer online regarding resumes, type this into your browser. It's site, SITE, harvard.edu, space, the word file type together, FILETYPE, PDF, space, resume. I know that's a lot. You can get that link back on our website too, but that link will give you an awesome compilation of everything Harvard has to offer. It is unreal. So if you want a recap of today's episode in writing, go to our website at, again, www.thecareerjigsaw.com and download it, and you can get a written version of some of the key summary points on our website. And lastly, what do we have in store for next week? Well, we go from resumes to interview part 1. And I'll give you a spoiler alert. We will give you, in next week's episode, an interview hack that will 100% increase your confidence in answering almost every type of interview question. Well, podcast people, that is a wrap. Thank you so much for listening in today. If you like what you heard, keep listening, follow us, etc. You know the drill. And also, check out our website at thecareerjigsaw.com. Again, thanks so much for tuning in, and more to come next week. Be safe, all.